Hey, it's Freiberger, and this is going to be my review of the Cepek Fun Country Tire. Here's the quick version. They're louder than people say that they are. They are terrible in ice. They're way better than I expected in mud and slush, and they have a specific advantage over a typical mud terrain tire. Let's check it out. Now, the rubber that I'm going to be reviewing here specifically is a 32 by 1150/15 on my 1973 Chevy Blazer, which is bone stock with a 350 and a 4-speed. And I've got them mounted on a 15 by 8 steel wheel. The truck probably could have handled a 33 by 1250, but I just didn't go there. Now, the Fun Country I'm talking about today is the one that's available as of March 2019 when I'm shooting this video. They've been sold for, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 years at this point. But I remember the old Fun Country brand when I think that they were just a renamed version of the Armstrong Norseman. Remember those in the 80s? And that's what the tread pattern kind of looks like. It's a little bit reminiscent of that Norseman, and that's why I wanted it for the retro look on the Blazer. So let's talk about, how I felt about these tires. First of all, one of the reasons that I bought them is I read a lot of reviews from people who are talking about how quiet they are. And this is why I think you need to look at a lot of tire reviews on different vehicles with different opinions before you buy one for your own rig, because let me just say, not that quiet. I expected them to be like street treads based on what I had read on the internet, and they're not. They're not super loud, they're not objectionable, but they're what you would expect for a tire like this. They're not super quiet. And I did run them on the highway at pressures from 20 to 25 to 30 to 35, and they're definitely quieter. I would say when you make the jump from 25 to 30 PSI, you start to run just more in the center tread area right here, and they do get more quiet. And so they're more quiet at 30 or 35 PSI than they are at 20 or 25, but still, they're a noticeably there off-road tire. It's very hard to talk about tire noise subjectively because, how high is up? It's different for different sizes, pressures, trucks, people's opinions, but I'm gonna say they're not as quiet as I expected it to be. Another thing I wanted to mention about this whole review is that it's not sponsored in any way. I paid for these with my own money, and so I'm saying negative things like they're not as quiet as I expected to be, and here's the big one. These things are terrible in ice. I ran these things almost 1,600 miles over the past 5 days, starting in Colorado, and there was a lot of snow and icy situations, and we had two circumstances where I was on flat ground, say pretty much similar to where it's parked right now, let the clutch out, and tires just turned without the vehicle going anywhere. Steer the tire, everything, it just wasn't going to move. Now, most tires are terrible in ice, and so that's not a real critique, but it's something you should know. I had one circumstance actually of snap oversteer on the road and some black ice that was pretty spooky on them. We also drove in a bunch of rain, and I'm gonna say they hydroplaned more than I really wanted them to. And so I'm gonna rate them pretty poor for ice and, not awesome in rain, not terrible. I mean, it didn't fear for my life, but I hit some hydroplane puddles that I thought I probably should have gotten through okay. But now let's get to the good news. So, we drove like 30, 40 miles at a time on dirt roads that had been under snow. And so we're talking about, that much snow and slush versus that much mud cruising along, and these things had grip like I couldn't believe. I was really impressed by them in those circumstances, that they were as good as they are for a tire that's not fully aggressive like a mud terrain. They had a lot of gription. And then when we got to Moab, I mean, virtually every tire is good in slick rock, and these were fantastic. But they were also really good on like rock shelves and mild rock crawling. Did the first couple miles of Poison Spider Mesa with them. No problem on those shelves and some of the sharp shale and stuff that you experience in the first few miles of that trail. So I was impressed with that too. And in the sand, I was really blown away by the grip. Now the sand, I will say, was a little bit damp because it had been raining, so that will add grip to sand. But they were a really good tire in that circumstance. And so overall, my review is louder than you thought, better off-road than I thought. Here's the thing that makes them a win for my particular application though. While they were almost as loud as I would say a brand new BFG mud terrain would be, they're a lot smoother. These things roll like they just have a softness to them when you're on the highway that you don't get with a lot of really aggressive mud terrain tires. When you roll up to a stop and you can feel the tire kind of going gunk, 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 gunk. and that's where kind of some of that noise come from. These are a lot smoother than that. These have really, really nice handling traits. And so overall, would I recommend them? Yes, I would. And I think they're pretty cool on the Blazer. We'll see you next time.